Tonight, in this great stadium, a new legend is born. You athletes are the heroes of that legend. Tonight, they cheer for you.
Give us 50 years of history in 5 minutes. I said, give me a break. Okay, when I was in high school, I did volunteer work at a summer camp for, it was mentally retarded at that time, and of course intellectual disabilities now. And I did that for about 2 months in the summer, and got involved with the athletes or the students at that point. And that was my very first time to really get involved with the intellectual disability folks. Absolutely, absolutely, Chris. What happened after that is I ended up joining, there was an organization at the time that was the leading portion of Special Olympics called the Association for Retarded Citizens. And I joined that, became an active member in that, and with that filtered into Special Olympics, and then stayed with the ARC and Special Olympics. Was a couple of years there out of touch because of the military. But when I came back, my career, all my education was special education. I ended up having all my early years as a teacher, dealing with special needs from severe, profound to higher level students. And then I went on to teach some high school level folks. And from teaching, I went into working at a state school, which the El Paso State School, and for human development. And then from the El Paso State School, I went to Region 19 Education Service Center, which serves all the school districts in the region, and ended up working there for 16 years, I believe, retired from there. And of course, I was the assistant director and then director of special education until I retired, and then retired for a little bit and went back and was a special ed director at a local school district for a little bit, working part-time. So from the very beginning of being a high school volunteer through Special Olympics and staying with it, that was all my education and building up. Of course, getting into Special Olympics itself, because of the ARC, I became very active in Special Olympics. Ended up being asked to be the district coordinator. That was before they had employees that ran the areas. District coordinator, 1973-74, to run the El Paso area at a request of the state office. So I did that for several years, became active as far as being a board member and a coach and volunteer at all levels. But that's how I moved on through the Special Olympics movement to where I am today, of being off and on the board 6 times since the 70s. When I did the summer program, I have the child, remember his name and what he looks like and everything, and he had never really had much communication. That you were assigned and worked with certain students. And this young man was assigned to me, and one of the things we taught was, or we went to, was swimming during the summer. And he had never communicated with anyone as far as speaking with any verbal outbursts or anything. So I worked with him and talked to him all the time, and he would get in the water with me and taught him to swim. And it was all shallow, of course, but by the time we finished the summer program, he was actually calling me by Coach Rick. So that was a big deal, that a child that had never really, and his mother, of course, and his family were elated. So that kind of was that didn't make me make the final decision to go that route, but that sure stuck in my mind as something that was really Wonderful. At that point, when I did that, there was an employee that was the Special Olympics, like executive or director, and there was an assistant director. However, they worked so they were paid at the state level, but then they had all their folks out there as volunteers, and they were employees of the Association for Retarded Citizens at the time. After I started in about 77, 78, Special Olympics incorporated and pulled away from the ARC, the Association for Retarded Citizens, wanted to go out and be on its own, and there was a lot of negotiating and legal things that had to take place because the ARC wanted the Special Olympics to stay a part of their organization and not be autonomous, which worked out. And so back to your question, the only paid folks at that time was a director, an assistant director, and I think they had a secretary, but they worked out of Austin, out of the ARC office, and all the folks in the state of Texas were volunteer district coordinators or coaches or whatever. So ground level, I mentioned, I mentioned this yesterday, and to put it all in perspective, the first board meeting that I was chairman of the board was held in a Pizza Hut in Abilene, and there were 6 of us.
Wow.
And it was just 6 coaches and interested folks that came together on request of the ARC or the Special Olympics folks, and we kind of got things going at that point. So yeah, it was grassroots and built up to, of course, what it is today. I mean, the board of directors is very high-powered, very exclusive as far as people that can raise a lot of money, a lot of folks that are very influential throughout the state, which helps a lot with overall development. Where back when we started, it was just 6 coaches that had an interest to keep things going. Oh, well, yeah, I think we had the vision of more and more folks around the state. What was hard was the size of Texas. I mean, that's just, here I was from El Paso, we had Abilene, we might have had someone from Dallas. I mean, just, we'd all met at various functions and whatever. And so I think we all thought we needed to make this much more visible and known, but at that point, I didn't think that it would ever develop into something quite as massive, but I could also relate to what was going on at the national level. They were starting to gradually filter out to outside the United States and going to other countries. In fact, the only thing that one of the most, it's only happened once, we being El Paso, hosted the executive directors of all the states. They had meetings once a year, and we hosted it in Juarez, Mexico. And that was a real challenge to get everything across the border and back. Of course, that's when you could easily go over there and back without any problems. But we did that in 1977, and that was kind of the beginning of other countries really getting involved. They already were involved, but getting to use another country to be involved with a meeting. Yeah, well, there again, it was at a function, and just everybody was kind of milling around, and it was more just a hello, how are you, where are you from kind of thing. My wife and I got to meet her and visit with her just briefly, but just to know that this was the lady that started it from a summer camp in her backyard in the 60s, 62 or so, and then of course it all became, really started with that 68 Chicago games, which Shirley, you met earlier, was actually there. But to think that she started it because of her sister, Rosemary, who had intellectual disabilities, and to get to actually shake her hand and say hello once or twice over the years was a big deal. It meant a lot to us. Easy, the number of athletes that they've been able to reach out and bring in over the years at all levels. It was not just one severe, younger, older, whatever. And to be able to look at that now and look at what has happened as far as the growth of the program is because of course, volunteers, staff, the roots, but to see that many more athletes involved at all levels is the most gratifying, because once upon a time it was, we were talking hundreds and now thousands, and hopefully that'll continue to grow.